It's easy to recognise the Shure SM7B, an excellent end address microphone that's really taken the world by storm over the past 18 months, being used on so many video podcasts. Everyone from Joe Rogan to Mike Tyson has had one of these in front of them, and with really good reason, because they're cracking with plosives, they're great with reducing sibilance, and they give you that deep, rich, radio-like tone that just makes you want to turn into a voiceover artist and start asking Clem Fandango if he can hear you. However, it was always a bit of a pain to use, simply because all the things that made it so good, and they were predominantly the fact that the capsule on this is about halfway back on the windscreen. That distance is what means that it has the great plosive rejection, but it also means that it's low in output. So you need either a very clean gain mic preamp or something like this, the Dynamite Stick, a FET head or a cloud lifter to boost the signal up without getting lots of hiss with it. Well, today we are looking at the Motiv MV7, and this is a USB end address mic from Shure. And it's got more than one trick up its sleeve, but we're going to cover that later on. So join me as we see how the new Challenger is going to take on the might of the SM7B and whether this might be right for you, your podcasting and your studio work. With the microphone powered up, the controls are actually on the top here, and it's kind of on a bit of a touch strip. You've got a row of LEDs at the top, then your touch strip that can control gains. You've got a physical mute, and then you've got a selector switch to swap between the headphone and the microphone level. So you can set either from the top of the mic. These are replicated on the control panel, and actually this is really quite interesting. So let's go and have a look. Now, Shure have done something pretty fantastic with this mic because they've given it an automatic mode that's actually fairly responsive, and especially if you're video podcasting and just trying to get the mic away from your mouth so you've got a clear line of sight to the camera, it's pretty good to just set and forget. I particularly like the dark mode, which we're in at the minute. If we just go over to the app and have a look, there's 3 modes in the app. So we're in auto mode, and we can select whether it's far or near. So obviously we're sort of far because we're not close up on the mic. And we've got dark mode, which roughly resembles the SM7B. So here is the MV7 in its dark mode, and here is the SM7B natively out of the 7B, and then 7B with a bit of processing that normally I do in post with the 7B. And now back to the MV7 in dark mode. So you can hear the difference between there. Let's go to natural mode. Again, we're on far setting and natural mode on the MV7, and then back to the SM7B, and we're on, this is completely flat and dry out of the SM7B. We're just level matching here. And now we're going to go onto the SM7B, but with a bit of processing that I do in post. And now back to the MV7 in its natural mode. There's also a bright mode, but I'm going to go to it. This is bright mode. I don't think you're going to use this. I think it's too bright. I don't really see the point of it. I don't like it when it's close up. I don't like it when it's here. I get why they might put it as an option, but essentially you're probably looking at natural or dark mode, which I think is probably my favourite here. It puts that richness back in, which normally you do lose when you're using microphones at a distance. So Shure have really thought about this. They've thought about people who are podcasting and video and getting the mic further back. That's always been a real problem with so many people who all presume that you're going to be using the mic close up because that's what they do in recording studios. So full credit to Shure for actually listening to what podcasters and videocasters really do want. Now, so we can compare the mics today, I have actually got them set up in 3 different ways. And that's that we've got the digital output coming out of the MV7, we've got the analog output coming out of the MV7, and we've got the analog output coming out of the SM7B. These 2 are going into my desktop computer, and the digital output of the MV7 is going into my laptop. And that's because you're not really supposed to drive both outputs out of the MV7 at the same time. And in fact, throughout the video, if you can hear a little bit of a noise in the background, it's because I'm driving all of the outputs and there's a slight ground issue. It won't be an issue for you if you're using one output or the other, but I want to be able to show you the difference between them, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So just to demonstrate that fact, I'm going to unplug the XLR out and then just use the microphone on its USB setting just to show you how clean it actually is. So this is the mic on its USB setting. This is the mic on its USB setting with the noise level. So the little sort of buzzing you may be able to pick up in the background is because I've got both of them connected so we could swap between them. Now, the reason you might want a XLR output out of the MV7 is if you've got multiple people working in the same room on the same broadcast, trying to connect up multiple USB devices with monitoring, perhaps you're talking to people on Discord or Skype, it's really difficult with USB. You just end up with different latencies and everything just sounding really wrong and disconcerting. So having that going through either an analog or a digital desk from the XLR output of the mic is a really, really good idea. Now, tonally, it's fairly different to the SM7B because there's no processing going out of the XLR output whatsoever. You don't get the high pass and the presence controls that you do get on the SM7B, but they have voiced it very differently. So it's got a high pass built in tonally. It's higher than the SM7B's high pass setting, which I have got the SM7B set on at the minute. And it's also got a considerable boost in the upper mid-range. So 2K to 10K is probably about 4 dB up. And that just means it's sharper and crisper. You don't quite get that richer tone, but actually this is all about recording voice. This is and speech. This isn't so much about it being a studio mic as being a podcasting mic. So the tone of the XLR output has been voiced for that, and Shure have done a really good job. In fact, they've done a really good job throughout. All the settings, the EQs, the compressor, the limiter, it's really been thought out by people who do use these for podcasting and specifically video podcasting. The fact that it has a far mode, so you've got the clear shot to camera, is just something that a lot of people completely miss. They just give you a USB mic that's designed somehow to use in the studio and say, get on with it. Well, Shure really have put the work in. All of the settings on the compressors are really subtle and just engineered towards speech. Next up, let's have a look at near mode. And as I go in near mode, the downside to near mode is that actually it doesn't seem to be very fast on the dynamic. So if I'm talking quite naturally like this and slowly, and if I get a little bit louder, but it's gradual, it will follow me. But if you get excited because there's a goal and there's this, you can just hear as it starts, it takes a little while to go change the dynamics in what it's doing, and it's a goal. It's just a little bit too slow. However, back in far mode, it's pretty flipping good. And it's moving the dynamics and it's following what's going on, and there's a goal, and there's a goal, there's a goal. It's a set it, forget it. It's going to be better than it clipping. It's a good job in this mode. If we swap over to manual mode, there's some different settings that'll be very familiar if you know the SM7B. I'm going to crank the gain pretty high, so we're going up right almost to the top here. And let's start running through some of the other settings here. So you've got 4 EQ settings. You've got flat, which is the mode that I'm currently in. Then we've got high pass, which cuts even more of the rumble. Presence boost, which is that sort of 2 to 4K area that it's just giving a little lift to. And then high pass and presence boost. And that's not really one that I'm liking on here, but to be honest, I'm just a linear flat man. Now, we've also got the compressor and the limiter. Now, I've got the limiter turned on just to try and catch any of the peaks that do go through, just if we do get a stray plosive or something. And then let's crank the compressor. So this is the compressor on light mode. This is the compressor on light mode. This is the compressor on medium mode. This is the compressor on medium mode. This is the compressor on heavy mode. This is the compressor on heavy mode. And dependent on how live your room is, this is probably quite a good option for you. And realistically, let's see how the 7B would cope in this situation. So let's now hear from the SM7B with the post-processing that I'd put on in this situation. Now, this is doing a really good job. And if I do start to get a little bit louder and I get carried away, I can see actually I am really running this hot because the little red light starts flashing. So let's turn this down just a touch. And then if I am just getting a little bit carried away and it's going to grab the peaks, it's just going to grab the fleets. I can just see it flashing the red on the peaks. And actually that's doing quite a good job of keeping all my levels in check. So even when I go a little bit quieter here and they get a little bit louder, it's just hopefully keeping all of those fairly even. So at this distance, this is a fantastic mic. Yes, you've got the auto mode, you've got the manual mode, you've got the way to tune the sounds. But one of my favourite things about the SM7B is when you get close up and you get that deep, rich radio tone and it just inspires you. It just brings out that commercial DJ type tone. And look out for the code word. UK residents should send the code word that's below on the screen right now to scanproaudio@scan.co.uk to access exclusive deals. And deep up on the SM7B, especially if we put on our regular vocal chain, listen out for the code word. UK residents should hit up the code word scanproaudio@scan.co.uk to access exclusive deals. Now, that's pretty lovely. It's just right up. It's rich, it's deep, and I really like that tone. Let's switch to the MV7 and let's show the problem that I've got with it. Because that same deep, rich, close tone, when I come up to it, actually doesn't become so great. I've got the compressor on, but you can hear the S's and the T's just stick out. It's just not quite right. And plosive wise, it's pretty bad. Peter Parker picked a peck of pickled peppers. Spidey senses. Spidey senses. It's sibilant. It's popping. That doesn't really work for me. And it's not just the compressor that's doing it. Let's turn the compressor off. Peter Parker picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Parker picked a peck of pickled peppers. Now, I have found one little way around this. And what you can do is to move the foam slightly forward. Peter Parker picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Parker picked a peck of pickled peppers. Spidey senses. Spidey senses. It's definitely helping, but it's still not really that luscious tone that you get off a 7B with its once you put some processing on it. Peter Parker picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Parker picked a peck of pickled peppers. It's just smoother. Then I tried something. I took off the foam from the MV7 and I put on the foam from the SM7B. This worked so well, I went and bought a spare foam for the SM7B. Now, we're getting interesting. I'm going to gain the mic up slightly. So I've got 20 something dB and I've kept the processing on. So the compressor's on heavy and the limiter's on. And now we should get a lovely, more buttery taste. And I say buttery and I say Peter Parker picked a peck of pickled peppers, and the S's and the T's. It's like I've got the de-esser on the SM7B. This is like the post-process tone that I'm dealing with most of the time after I've finished at the end of a video edit. This is lovely. This is smooth and defined, and I think this is absolute magic. So this is the MV7 with the RK345 pop filter. This is about £18 in the shop. However, if you buy one of these with an MV7 from Scan, you can get it for an additional £10. Winner. Okay, so MV7 with RK345. And this is the SM7B with the post-processing that I'd normally put on at the end of the video. This is the MV7 with the RK345. I think we've hit the nail on the head. Either the heavy or the medium. Let's go down to the medium compression. And one of these 2 points is probably about right for you. On my voice, I'm favouring linear mode on the EQ. I don't want high pass. I don't want presence. I don't want high pass and presence. I think the flat mode, because it's got slightly less bass than the SM7B has anyway, but we've got that same sort of tone and we've got the same sort of sibilant and S reduction, and the pop filter is just amazing. In fact, it's working almost better on the MV7 than it does on the SM7B with the same piece of foam. It fits snugly on top. It's definitely not going anywhere. And it's just an overall winner. I thoroughly encourage you, if you are going to use the mic close up like this, manual mode, medium settings, limiter on, and then with this additional pop filter, absolute magic. It is just like the SM7B with the post-processing, because this is the SM7B with the post-processing and this is the MV7 with the processing. It's coming directly off the app into whatever program you put it in. This is just ready to go into for Twitch streaming, for YouTube, for live broadcast. You haven't got to worry about your tone afterwards. It's doing as good a job as the processing channel out of Resolve when I finish with the 7B. What more can I say apart from, if you want to use this mic close up, you really want to get one of these. It's wonderful and smooth and silky and buttery and just fantastic. One other great thing about the MV7 is its off-axis rejection. So if I keep making a noise and then move round, hopefully that doesn't become a meme. Fantastic job from Shure here. I think this is an absolute winner of a USB podcasting microphone that's also got XLR functionality if you do want to connect up multiple people in the studio. And at the end of the day, with the addition of the RK345, it is amazing. It's silky, it's smooth, it's rich, and I am really, really chuffed the bits that essentially, if you, especially for streaming, it's just job done. Get the limiter on, get the compressor on to medium, and it will just make sure that your tone is absolutely cracking for your streams and you just don't have to worry. You've got great positioning when you get the extended foam, and that sorts out the plosives and the sibilants. So Shure, very, very well done. I think you should probably bundle the RK345 in the box with it because it works so well. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any other questions, then please hit us up. Otherwise, we'll see you for a video again soon. Thank you very much.